Hey everybody, this is Claire, and this is Small Joyful Things. As always, I go to thrift stores or estate sales, or sometimes I buy things from Craigslist, and I'm always looking for interesting things that I think you guys might like to see, or things that just appeal to me personally. And then I bring them home, try and find out as much as I can about them, and then tell you guys about them. Hopefully the lighting is a little bit better. I've kind of moved things around a little bit, so now the light is actually directly above the camera. I hope this will make things maybe a little bit easier to see. I think maybe my recent videos have been a little bit dark, but we'll see how it works out. The other thing that I've done, as you may notice as well, is that I sound a little bit strange. I'm afraid I'm recovering from a head cold, so apologies. I'm actually okay. I'm just still, I sound a little bit weird. But let's get going. Here's what I got today. I have this beautiful dish. I hope it shows up quite well in the camera. There's still a little bit of dirt that we need to get rid of. It is like a really, really beautiful dish. I hope it's very obvious that the size of it is also quite deep, quite heavy. I think you might call it either a platter, but I think it's probably a plate. It's a little bit too small to be a platter. It is very, very nice glass. I bought this in a thrift store for $2 because I picked it up and kind of just knew from the feel of it and the look of it that it was probably early American pattern glass. Glad to say that I was right. Before we get into that, let's measure it up. It is 9 inches across and 1.5 inches tall. So again, like a plate or whatever, it's still a little bit high for a plate, but just not quite wide enough to be anything like a platter. Other thing you can see about it is that obviously it's in lovely condition, but it does have quite a number of these bubbles in it, which you can see here in the rim. It's most obvious here, and if I turn it around you can see there's quite a number of others here as well. And that's a manufacturing defect, not really like damage to himself. It's kind of a bit like, does this detract from it? Maybe not. It's just a kind of a feature of very old glass. Like I said, early American pattern glass. Now, the other thing you might notice as well is that there's a little bit of scratching on the inside here. Not as bad as it could have been. I've seen EAPG that has been absolutely wrecked. This is about as good as you can expect. On the underside, you can see these in like this lovely, I think it's blanking on the name of the pattern. These are panels here. I think these are called rosettes, if I remember correctly. Rosettes in the kind of diamond pattern. The one thing I always check, especially for very old glass, is check around the rim here. You can see this rim here. This is frequently chipped or cracked or broken. In this case, it's completely intact. I've even checked there is the mossy ring that I expect to see on glass this old. Otherwise, it's in remarkable condition. The only thing I needed to do to it was dust it. There are no chips, no cracks, and there goes my light. Tech issues. We'll just keep going, see how we get on. Hopefully there's enough light here to... I'm sorry. Okay. We'll continue and we'll fix the light later. So what can we say about this? First of all, EAPG is generally pretty hard to identify. I've definitely come across a few pieces that I literally could not identify at all. It just gets incredibly tricky. You have to kind of go by literally knowing the motifs themselves, being able to identify the combinations, and then using the apgs.net database to kind of cross-reference until you figure out who was the maker and what pattern it was. And very frequently I'll come across something where I can't identify it at all. I would say that my hit rate for actually identifying EAPG is about 75%. Definitely not 100. But in this case, we have something that helps us identify it immediately. And it is this right here in the center of the glass. And I'm afraid this is going to be a little bit tricky to see. I'll try and get as close to the camera as possible. Right here. And if you see there, it's a very tiny little bee. I wish I could kind of get it into a better view here, but unfortunately I really can't. It's like I've got to try and not knock the camera over with the plate. What I can tell you is that this is indeed the bee symbol of the John Higbee Glass Company. Now, weird coincidence, where only last week I actually put up a video talking about a reproduction of one of their patterns of the Canadian thistle pattern that didn't have the B mark. And I made a point of saying that like the B mark with the actual HIG initials in the B itself, in each wing and in the centre body, that is the actual John Higbee glass like designs. The later reproductions were not allowed to use that, as in the later ones with from, if I remember correctly, LG Wright and a few others, the most that they had was just the B mark. They didn't have the initials in it. This one actually has the initials HIG in the B. This means that this is actually an original piece. This is John Higbee. And imagine like the strangest coincidence. And like I said, Vancouver thrift stores frequently have a lot of EAPG, but it's just considering that I just picked up some reproduction of this, like of another pattern, like just a week or two ago, and suddenly found the real thing. Like, again, strange coincidence. Anyway, a little bit more about this particular one. Let's go back here. Right. Now, I did go looking around for a little bit more information about the Higbee Glass Company. We don't, like, I have this information here from the local, from essentially the area where they were actually established in Pennsylvania. They actually came out of another company, the Bryce brothers, which we've talked about before. But I found a little bit more here. John Bryce, his son Charles Bryce, and then John B. Higbee and another guy called Doyle founded the Bryce Higbee Glass Company in 1879 and was located in Pittsburgh. But John Bryce died in 1888. In 1907, Homestead was destroyed by fire. And then Higbee ceased operations, and John B. Higbee then opened the plant in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania. And he died in December 1906. Now, we know a little bit more here that his son kind of kept it going. He acquired the equipment and molds. And the actual company was continued for a little bit longer. We go back here. This is the actual, I'll get to the pattern in a second. Let's go here now. Okay. So, Higbee John B. Glass Company in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, it operated from 1907 to 1918, and this would have been when his son was doing it, not John himself. He would have been dead at this point. The particular pattern that we are dealing with is, right, there we go, this one. It is called Gala. It is known by, obviously, because they're over, like, essentially when people started collecting EAPG, they just kind of gave it random names, and they became known as the AKA names. This one is called the Hawaiian Lei. I think you can see where they're going with that like this is basically looks like a lei of flowers. Very cute. So there's a whole, there's a wonderful photo reference here for the actual pattern itself. It was produced over the run of the company, and it's introduced circa 1913. So that gives us kind of a date for this, more or less. This is over 100 years old, and considering the condition of it, that's phenomenal. But there's a whole series of actual, like the pieces that you can get from it, including things like sugar bowl, cups, creamers, all this kind of stuff. I'll put a link down in the description if you'd like to take a look. The one that I particularly like are the large swung glass vases. I am a real sucker. Here we go. I'm a real sucker. For these, the swung glass vases. I don't think I've seen similar ones. I don't think I've seen this one in particular. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for it now. It has a very distinctive base to it. It has this repeating pattern. And, oh, the website. You're ridiculous. Anyway, so that's the pattern itself. If we go on to replacements.com, they're usually pretty good for kind of like, give us a little bit more information, but we don't really have a whole lot here. All they can say is, oh, it's been discontinued. And they have basically nothing. Not a whole lot of information. We have a 9-inch plate, basically. They have a 9-inch shallow round bowl, but the height of this one is wrong. That's not what it is. I think, pretty sure at this point that this is the plate. Now, the last thing, obviously, is this actually selling? So let's take a look. eBay at the moment has 2 sold listings in the last 90 days. We have a picture, and then we have a children's lidded sugar bowl. The children's stuff was usually essentially the regular ones, except in miniature. And you can see one here that's sold for $31 Canadian plus, it says shipping not specified. And that could mean anything. It may be free shipping. I'm not sure. This sold for $12 plus a pretty astronomical amount of shipping. So if we go back, go back here. What's currently listed? There's 23 results. And there's enough there that I think people do collect it. Not a whole lot. It's yeah, it's not good. It's $15, $19, $20 per piece. It's not fantastic, but it's also not nothing. Definitely not nothing. There's a 10-inch clear platter here is being listed for $49 Canadian. I would say I'll probably put this up on Etsy and I'll have it listed for, considering it's in fantastic condition for a start, I will probably list it for probably $20 to $30 plus whatever shipping I can figure out on top of that. Let's say, I don't know, $40 with free shipping included. That kind of thing. Like, it really is just a remarkable piece. On its own, you could definitely use it as a serving platter or something. And I'm always really impressed when I find early American pattern glass because I really enjoy the fact that it's just this really remarkably resilient glass, despite the fact it's over 100 years old. It doesn't chip the same way as brilliant cut glass, and it's far more serviceable in my opinion. So there you have it. A real antique. I love to see it. This is my small joyful thing for the day. I hope you guys like it too. As always, if you're interested in any of the stuff I do my videos about, just check the link to my Etsy store in the description. You can take a look at, the stuff will end up there eventually. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.